Ehrenberg. It's great to be with you again.
It's great to be with you too, Cliff.
Talking about the SA Smart Mayor's Challenge for 2025.
Welcome to the 2025 Mayor's SA Smart Challenge.
All right. That should be inspiring. If you're not inspired yet, then you should be now. So I'd like to start with an age-old question that students all over the world ask when we're studying things. Why should I have to study this? Why do I have to study this? And the SA Smart Challenge, one interesting thing about our design is it's really at the intersection of STEM, civics, and entrepreneurship. And so when I thought about that, I thought, I wonder if there's a good San Antonio example that you could share with the students.
Well, first, we've said before, every job is a STEM job in the modern world. And so there's that. We also want people to have initiative, to be willing to solve problems and to come up with good creative ideas, and that's the genesis of entrepreneurship. The third one is important because we want those ideas and that initiative to be directed towards issues in our society, in our communities to solve. And so that's where I believe civics comes in. So when all those three things are working together, we get some really magnificent concepts and programs that ultimately change our communities, change our world. One that comes to mind specifically at that intersection for me that I've been able to work with over a number of years that has really transformed San Antonio's landscape is Build San Antonio Green, which was the idea of an incredible leader in our community and has become now a nonprofit that has literally saved our community from tons, thousands, millions of tons of carbon emissions, has also saved us from having to generate new electrical plants because it's making buildings in our city more efficient. This is a tremendous organization that has really made living in San Antonio a better experience. It is helping us fight climate change. It's essentially bringing together the solar industry, energy efficiency, reducing carbon emissions, fighting climate change all together into how we build buildings in San Antonio, homes and commercial buildings.
And when we take topics like that and we integrate them into what's going on in the real world, that's when they become most embedded.
That's right.
When they make the biggest difference.
And Bill Sinkin, a long time ago, a former banker and a real high-minded individual. He's involved in the civil rights movement. He was an attorney. He helped birth the solar industry in San Antonio, but one of the offshoots of that was this idea of Build San Antonio Green, taking the technologies and understanding and innovation within the solar industry and intersecting that with how we build structures. And today, after starting modestly, it is now making energy efficient buildings by the tens of thousands every single day, and you can understand the impact it has on carbon emissions, on the efficiency of our electrical grid, and things like that. So it's changing the world.
And I believe it's called EcoCentro. Alamo College is on the SAC campus.
That's
that
right.
building's named after him because of the work that he did.
Yep.
Yeah, very interesting. So speaking of people in San Antonio who have things named after them, Mayor Howard Peak, the trail system in San Antonio that is developing rapidly. It goes back to work that he did, and it's work he did before he was mayor. And I thought about the analogy between work he did before he was mayor and the work that these even younger students are getting ready to do, and how something that starts small can really grow. And I'm wondering if you could comment on the trail system and the way it's unfolding, and maybe comment on how the work that students do today could turn into very large, very positive change for our city.
Yeah, well, first, it was a great honor and privilege to get to know Howard and to call him a friend and an advisor. And my initial conversations with him sparked an interest in the Greenway Trails and the Aquifer Protection Program, which he was also a part of, in terms of my priorities in public office. And since then, since I've been in office, I've made those two priorities that I've been able to continue in various ways. And so Howard continues to have an impact on this community. The Greenway Trail System specifically, which we've named after him, is probably the most well-developed and high-quality extended trail system in the country, perhaps rivals any in the world in terms of its connection to all parts of the community. What we have to do is to continue to connect it. The original vision was an emerald ring around the city. We have just about finished that, but we've gone so much farther beyond that, and that's where young people and the residents of our city come in. So an initial concept, which can be tremendous and beautiful and functional, which the Greenway Trail System original concept was, can be enhanced as people use it. And all of the runners and joggers and hikers and neighbors and people that have used the trails have continued to drive demand for new ones. And so now we're connecting to neighborhoods, now we're connecting to retail centers, to schools. And so it's become more than just recreation, it's become a way we can move around the city and move around the city in a efficient, environmentally friendly, beautiful way. And so my hope for the Greenway Trail System is that it will continue. It will never end in terms of the growth of them. As the city grows, we'll want to connect to more places, and students should be part of the community, if not the most significant part of the community that drives the vision of where this will go.
And with 1.1 million new people coming to our
That's right.
city and region by 2040, moving around the city in different ways is going to be really important.
Fastest growing city in the
figure out.
country, and we know that the solution for moving around that city can't just be roads and tires and single occupancy automobiles.
When we launch, and the students, you're about to see this, is I'll put a little graphic up of cars on our highways.
Yeah.
And then I'll talk about the 1.1 million new people, and I tell them that for every 3 cars you see in this picture, imagine 2 more.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
what will happen. And everybody then thinks about how much time they're spending in traffic.
That's right.
And none of us want that, right?
And we're a 500 plus square mile city, 1,500 square miles if you include the county. So you can imagine the crowded traffic in the urban areas. Imagine if that was spread out over the entire city. So we've got to continue to be smart about how we build transportation, and that's also why we're building transit, mass transit.
So we're doing something cool this year. We are electing a mayor of SA Smart. Actually 2, a middle school mayor and a high school mayor. And we're going to ask them to share a vision for SA Smart, and we're going to ask them for program feedback and policy recommendations. This is what a mayor does. And I just have to ask you, do you, as a veteran mayor, have any words of wisdom for our 2 students who will become mayors of SA Smart Middle School City and SA Smart High School City?
I have a whole list of things I'd love to share. Maybe I'll distill it into 2 things since you're talking about vision. And I'm a big believer that the best visions, the best ideas and concepts are done collectively. I mean, you can have the genesis of an idea. If you share it with others around you, it becomes even better and it becomes feasible, achievable. And when you have more people own an idea, it can actually get done. So the first piece of advice is to don't get caught up in who takes credit for things. Amazing things can happen when you're not worried about who gets credit for it. So share, especially ideas. The second one is don't limit your ideas by what you think is possible. The best ideas, in my mind, also are not inhibited by our current, our constraints, whether that's, the money, the resources that you have available to you, or, even the structure of what's allowable by policy. Say, whether that's your school policy or your city policy. Sometimes policies need to change for the times that they're in. based on the ideas that are presented to help, as long as they are, again, at the intersection of that innovation that we talked about, but certainly improving your community.
So hopefully our students are going to do a lot of cool things. And when we do cool, our students or any of us do cool things, we eventually have to let it go. And we have to trust that the next people who come behind us are going to carry that work forward and root for them and hope they do well. And you know, the next people, that includes our students, right? That they will have picked up some of the ways that we laid the groundwork. And so I'd like to ask you, what foundation do you hope that you have laid that we can all build on going forward? And if you project forward 20, 30, 40 years, what would you hope to see built on top of what you're going to be leaving behind?
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you used that word foundation, Cliff, because I think about foundations when I think about San Antonio. We are a big, beautiful, modern city, and we're building a new airport. We've got really interesting, inspiring ideas about what we're going to be doing in the downtown area, and you know, new public amenities and all those things. None of that is possible unless we build a strong foundation for the city. And what I mean by that is its people. Its people need to thrive. And for a long time, and this is true in every community, some people have barriers. Some people have a lack of access. They are disadvantaged. They're struggling in poverty. And so what we want to do is make sure that there's a path to opportunity for everyone. In particular, focusing on ensuring a path to education and training for modern day jobs. It's no longer enough in the 21st century economy to stop at high school. You have to have a trade, a skill, or a degree, or some sort of professional technical training. And so in San Antonio, we're providing a pathway for that and helping people who have life challenges along the way to remove those barriers so they can get that education. The second part is you got to be able to move around, physically move around. And we talked about transportation. So we're building a transportation system, a modern transportation system with public transit for the first time here in our city. And then the third one is people need to be able to live safely. And we have a comprehensive housing effort. We're in year 4 of a 10-year plan. All these things to ensure that people have a safe, affordable place to call home, that they have a pathway to a modern education, and that they can move around their city affordably and safely. All those things are going to require generational commitment, far beyond me. And so my hope is that as I've laid this foundation of policy and planning, and it's not just me, voters approved these initiatives and my colleagues have contributed to it, the next leadership, the next people will continue to, when they take the baton from us, they'll continue to move to help continue to strengthen this foundation. If we do that as a community, we can have all the other nice things that we would love to have, like downtown venues and beautiful airports and the things that we believe our city deserves.
So before I show you a pretty picture, we're going to look at a picture that models our challenge for this year. I heard you bring up housing. And we're going to cover, in this year's challenge, we're covering all of our prior topics, but we've added 2 that were recommended, were asked for by our 2024 finalists, are housing and mental health. Then I heard you bring up housing.
Yeah.
In particular. Could you just talk briefly about those 2 topics and why they're important?
Sure.
For us?
Well, and housing is related to mental health, because if someone is housing insecure, if they are worried about where their rent is going to come from, or perhaps they don't even have a home, maybe they're in shelter, maybe they're on the street. If you don't have a safe, secure shelter, place to live, a home, then your mental health is seriously going to suffer, and we see that all the time. Right. So again, people are probably familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's a reason why shelter is at the very base of that foundation. You've got to have a home. And in San Antonio, we developed a plan the housing framework that we put together starting in 2017, and the motto is, the mission is, everyone in San Antonio deserves a place to call home. On the mental health side, we know there's a crisis in America. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of trauma over the years that's built up. We want to remove the stigma of mental health because just about everybody in our society has some sort of challenges and trauma they're experiencing. Being able to cope with it and address it healthfully is critical to maintain mental health. Mental health and physical health are no different. It's just one is more visible than the other. I pay close attention to my mental health, and I do things to make sure I maintain it. So, I think these two challenges that are being addressed by students are fundamental, and I'm glad that they're thinking at that level. It's inspiring, and it bodes well for our future.
Yeah, to me as well, to see them doing this. So let's look at some pictures real quick.
Okay.
And see if they any memories recur to you.